Manny, I'm so happy to be here interviewing you today.
Thank you, Ana Paula.
I mean, Mike Finney gave a great introduction. We all look up to you in this ecosystem. I got here 5 years ago, helping to build it out, and you have always been a big reference. So a great honor for me and excited to get some insights from you.
Merci beaucoup. C'est un plaisir d'être ici avec mes amis de Montréal.
Oui, c'est un plaisir. Merci à vous. Merci à tous. So my first question, as Mike alluded, you have a tremendous career being a leader in the business space, in the investment space, in the philanthropic community. And you are the head of an amazing family. Melissa has been such a game changer as well. Where do you find your strength and inspiration and vision to push forward all these game-changing projects?
Well, first of all, it's really a pleasure to be here with you, Ana Paula. You've been here for 5 years. Well, you made a very significant difference. And I think it's knowing Marcelo very well and talking to him, I know he was very excited when you joined the team. And a lot of what's happened now is really because of your own drive. So thank you very much for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
In my personal case, my motivation, my drive, and the inspiration is various. As you know, I immigrated from Cuba as a young kid, and I saw my parents, my mother and my father, work tirelessly and take immense risks and work day and night. My dad driving a cab for 15 hours, my mom having 2 jobs as a hotel maid and peeling shrimps. And I also admire the fortitude that they had to put me and my sister on a boat and bring us to a country where we didn't speak the language, where we didn't have any money. So I think that kind of drove something in me as far as strength, and really say, you know what, I saw them do it at all costs. I'm going to do it at all costs. So that strength comes a lot from them, right? I think that they actually taught me a lot. As far as the vision and the perseverance, I'm a very curious person, and I speak today to a lot of young kids, and I tell them that curiosity is really one of the most important assets that you can have. You can develop it too. I mean, I'm very curious. I read everything. I look at everything. I mean, I read the label on the cereal box. I want to learn. I know about a little bit of everything. Meaning, I'm very curious. I want to understand where we came from, but more importantly, that leads me to where we're going. And I've always seen through history, I've seen all these waves, and every time you stand in front of one of these waves, you get wet, right? Sometimes drenched. Sometimes you drown. But anyway, so basically, I've kind of studied that, and I've seen. So what I try to sit back, it's very important to have quiet time, is to just sit back and say, where are things going and why? And this is why, I got into the internet early on, and then when virtualization came about, and then when the cloud, we were one of the pioneers in cybersecurity when people was talking. When we were in cyber, when cyber wasn't cyber, it wasn't called cyber, right? So basically, and that whole wave, and so it's kind of, that curiosity drives, okay, we think this is where we're going, and that's where the vision, I think, helps come from.
That's so interesting, and I can attest, all of the interactions I've had with you, you're always so present. You remember things. You know what's happening. I think that's a quality that's I very much appreciate. And I love the strength from your immigrant story. It's like immigrants get the job done, right? I'm an immigrant myself. Miami is a city made of immigrants.
Well, look, this is certainly one of our biggest strengths, right? When I arrived here, immigrants were a pest, like me, right? Basically, the Cubans were beginning to add up. Everybody was angry. It was a really tough time in Miami. It went from being that sleepy city to an immigrant city today. And I think that's our biggest strength as a country. And this is our biggest strength as a city, right? And a kind of a miniature ecosystem of what the country is all about. There's no question in my mind that being an immigrant was one of the biggest blessings that I had. And also, even a bigger blessing was that my parents brought me and my sister here, the United States, right? Because it was, notwithstanding all the issues at the beginning, we were very welcome. I received a lot of help from every aspect. I mean, I was able to study, I was able to do everything that we did, and I had a very welcoming, country that gave me these opportunities. So being an immigrant builds this sense of gratitude that you just want to be able to pay back as much as you can. And I would have to live many lifetimes to pay back how good this country and Miami has been to me and my family, right? So being an immigrant is something that I cherish. I speak a lot today to to kids, particularly immigrant kids, because a lot of them are lost. And I remember, I was, one of my highlights was when I gave the commencement address of Miami-Dade College, because I credit Miami-Dade College for being here. If it wasn't for Miami-Dade College, I definitely wouldn't be in the stage. And when I tell them, listen, you're already blessed, you're here, right? You're here, you're cool. So being an immigrant is a great blessing.
You talked about seeing your parents' example and having that strength and resilience built into you. Did you know you were going to be so successful? Or
absolutely not. Zero clue. The only thing that I did know, Ana Paula, is that I did not want to be poor. That I knew. That was a fact. I tell you, I don't like being poor.
That's already something good to know. You know what you don't want to be.
Right.
So
now, how I was going to get there, I had zero clue, but I did not know. But I did know that I wanted to just basically drive myself because I know it sounds kind of rude sometimes, but it was very pragmatic. I just figured, I saw, and I just said, you know what, I just want to, and that's how I started, right? Basically, by driving myself. I mean, I started as a CPA with Pricewaterhouse. I'm not an accountant by devotion. I always say the best two decisions I ever made was once to become a CPA, go to work for Pricewaterhouse, and the second was to quit, in that order, right? Because basically, it was a pragmatic decision. What is the quickest way for me to enter into the business world with credibility? And so it was pragmatic, but it was all driven by that desire to succeed, right?
And following that, you have founded and grown at least 3 companies valued at over $1 billion. So how has that journey been? And what are maybe common themes or levels that you have leveraged, for that success?
It's funny. Again, in my talks to young kind of MBA candidates most of the time, they really all want all the same. They all want to make money, and they all want to. And I've been asked the same question many times. So what's the secret to success? And the first thing I tell them is, let me disappoint you. There is no secret to success. And I made the analogy of the weight loss industry. I mean, weight loss industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? And what's the secret to losing weight? Eat less, exercise more. So why do people have to spend billions of dollars? Because it's very difficult to do. So first of all, there's no secret. But there are rules, and the number one rule is that you really must want it. You must want it. You have to feel it in the pit of your stomach. You have to have that desire, that need, that drive. If you don't have that, you're not going to succeed. So you must want it or develop it, right? 2 is you really and truly, and I particularly as young kids, and really it's the same throughout life, right? I tell them, look, think of yourself as a brand. Why do you buy Mercedes versus Toyota, or why do you buy a toothpaste? Because you trust the brand. And if you think of yourself as a brand, that trust brings you all kinds of opportunities, right? And that's basically another part of the success. You have to really cherish, and you got to keep your word. Because people like to be with people that they want to be with because they make them feel better. So that optimism, that brand, who would you rather be with? Somebody that's going to lift you up or somebody that's going to bring you down? So you can be conscientious about these lessons when you get up in the morning. It's very difficult to be optimistic and to have a positive attitude all the time. And what I tell them is that doesn't mean that if you get a traffic ticket, you got to go and celebrate. But if you get a traffic ticket, it's not the end of the world, So basically, that positive attitude. And one thing that is critically important is that they have to be willing to accept risk. It's really, really funny because we look at hundreds of business plans today. We look at entrepreneurs from all over the world, and it's really amazing. You see the difference when you have somebody that is actually risked. Their credit cards are maxed. They got a second mortgage on their parents' house. They really believe in what they're doing, and they're saying the reason I'm risking this is because I'm so passionate and I believe it. their levels of success are much higher than somebody else that says, you know what, I don't really want to quit my job, I have this idea, and I'm not going to do, and, basically, and I want to make sure that I keep my retirement at the same time that I do this. So that level of tolerance of risk is something that is critically important as well. And listen, it's not for everybody. You just have to ask yourself that question. Am I passionate enough to really want to do this? Do I really want it? Am I willing to sacrifice, my family, my, travel, etc.? Am I willing to take risk knowing that there's a good chance that I'm not going to succeed, right, in doing that? Answer yourself those questions. If you still go out and do it, then I think your chances of succeeding are significantly higher than the other way.
So really wanting it, which allows you to take more risk, and then building a good personal brand.
Right.
Very interesting. Let's talk about leadership a little bit. As you've created and scaled all these teams, we were listening previously about the importance of knowing yourself, where you're good at, where do you play best. What are the most important leadership lessons that you've had that you could share?
I think, look, and I think that kind of changes as organizations grow, right? When you start out, like I start out with one person or three, and then all of a sudden you have 2,000 employees, it's a whole different. But one thing very early on that I learned is that leadership really is about trusting people. It's about selecting the right people.
Going back to trust.
Well, it's true. You have to empower. If I have an executive and I don't empower that person, I have the wrong person. If you're working with me and I tell you, okay, here's the mission, here's the guidelines, go get that mission done. And if I have to micromanage you, you're not the right person. I'm not the right person. So basically, you got to surround yourself with people that can actually, the way I like to say it is, can do your job better than you can. Don't be afraid of people that are a lot smarter than you, that are a lot more driven than you, that are earlier, and I think that, again, it goes back to the organization, because then you're all driving each other. And that permeates. That culture in an organization permeates from the top down. And that culture, you really know very soon whether you belong there or not. And most people, you don't even have to say, sorry, you're done. They do it themselves. So if you create that culture, you surround yourself with people that you can empower, let go, let them make mistakes. It's part of their growing up. It's part of, let them make mistakes that are going to be part of their own success. And that's really a very important part. And I know it sounds logical, but I'm very surprised at a lot of leaders of enterprises and even government, right? That basically just like to micromanage and need to feel that they have to have their fingers in every aspect of it. I don't think that's sustainable or scalable.
That makes a lot of sense, but it takes a strong leader, confident in itself, to be able to do that, right? And lots of humility as well.
Oh, no question about that. That's one thing you learn very early on. That when you begin to believe your own propaganda, you're done. Basically, life has a way to, you begin to feel like, oh my God, I'm really good, man. I am really doing good. And then life has a way of taking a 2x4 and hitting you in the back of the head and saying, you're not so good after all, are you? And I can tell you many times where that's happened. So yeah, humility is a very, very big aspect of success.
So I'd love to take a second to explore that. We all very much know and respect your successes, but they say failure is a great teacher, right? Sometimes even better than success. Could you talk about examples where you had a failure and it made you come out so much stronger?
Can we spend a few hours? It could be a long afternoon. Yeah, listen, I got to tell you something. Failure is a very important part of success. It's what you do with it that matters afterwards. It basically. And I think that I've learned that very early on. And one of the things is that you learn. Like, for example, I think a lot of you, well, not a lot of you that are not from here, but all of you know the Network Access Point of the Americas, or the NAP of the Americas. The NAP of the Americas is one of the most important telecommunications infrastructure projects in the entire world. It interacts as the exchange. Think of Miami International Airport, but instead of airlines, it's bits. It's exchanging bits, right? We were building the NAP of the Americas as a publicly traded company, and we were in the middle of construction. The internet was booming. Telecommunications industry was exploding. Everything was Wall Street, kind of like today, we're tripping over another, money was everywhere. And as a publicly traded company, I didn't get all the funding that I needed to complete it because I always felt that I would dilute myself in a way that will be a lot more if I just waited and created more value. Follow me? So basically, so I waited. So what happens? All of a sudden, the internet bubble burst, the telecommunications industry imploded, September 11th happened, and here I am in a public company. My good friend Jane was there, her esteemed newspaper. It wasn't a matter of whether I will be filing bankruptcy or Terramark is when we will be filing bankruptcy. And because all of these things happened at the same time. Why? Because I was so stupid of not getting all the funding when I could have gotten it. Because I was, so anyways, we survived.
I mean, you still created $1 billion company.
But we were looking at we were not only at the edge, we were beyond the edge. But we survived, and we said, we got something here so valuable that we're going to make it through. And, I scraped, and it was okay. So we'll make payroll on Friday, and then we'll worry about payroll the other Friday. And it was really a tough time. I regretted every day not having taken the money when I could have had taken the money. But we survived. At the end of the day, my CFO and I at the time, now this is in the context of a public company, where you're doing everything in a glass bowl. So, we, at the time, this is just a funny part of the story, at the time, you didn't have like today. So I was carrying around a 40-pound laptop and a 40-pound projector, right? And we would pitch anybody that would give us, I would pitch the cab driver from LaGuardia to New York. I mean, anybody that I knew had a couple of dollars, right? So anyways, we survived, and thank God we survived, and the company, did incredibly well afterwards. But I learned a very important lesson. Take the money when it's there, right? And don't get greedy. When 2008 came around and the whole industry imploded, our balance sheet was very fat, we were very, very well poised, and we took advantage when everybody else was scrambling. So that lesson was a lesson that I learned the hard way, but I tried to teach it, and particularly to young entrepreneurs. As you talk today to young entrepreneurs, which you do all the time, there's always that tension of do I take the money, or do I dilute, or how do I do it? And my advice is take the money. Because basically when it's not there, it's not there.
Yeah, that's true. And it's very distracting. So it's just you set yourself up for a higher bar the more money you take, right? So it's the balance you need to be working on.
Of course.
But let's shift gears a little bit, because we're here in Miami and we're very excited about everything that's going on. And you were the early visionary. And I'm thinking now, you treated Miami like one of your startups. You're building like a multi-billion business for Miami. So how did you know Miami was worth betting on, and everything you've done to push it when nobody else had it so clear?
Well, look, I've always been a big believer in Miami, and I've been selling Miami for a very, very long time, way before technology or the internet. And basically, Miami's always had something. There's a park just up the street here called the Mayor Maurice Ferré Park. Mayor Maurice Ferré had a saying, and he's somebody whom I admire a lot, and I credit him a lot for what Miami became, right, and has become now. But he used to say something, Miami, we got politics, we got issues, we got this, but there's something that nobody can screw up. We have geography, right? And that geography, I don't care. And that's what we've always had. We've always had geography. So I've always felt the same way that we became banking and people love to come here, and then you became this melting pot. The one thing we didn't have was technology, innovation, startup. Well, of course, I founded a technology company. I headquartered it here, even though we had operations all over the world. And it was very, very difficult to recruit. And I always had this vision. I would go to the Moscone Center in San Francisco, or in Barcelona to one of the conferences, or New York, or many other places, or South by Southwest, and meet all these people, and they would all come to Miami anyways. But they would not come to Miami with a technology, innovation, startup mindset. So I always felt that the opportunity was there. We're very welcoming. We have operations in Silicon Valley, significant amount of operations in Silicon Valley since 2001. We have offices in Boston, we have offices in New York, etc. And all of these places, Miami has something that is really, really unique. We're very welcoming, and we're very open. And it doesn't matter how long you've been here. Mike got here, I don't know how long ago. Mike is an integral part of our fiber. You've been here for 5 years. You're an integral part of our fiber. We're very welcoming, right? And that's not the case in Silicon Valley, in New York. It's a lot easier here. So I've always felt that with a little bit of priming, the pump could get done. And that's why I always felt the potential was there. It was very difficult, early days of technology here, to recruit. Very, very difficult. I must tell you, I was insulted a number of times. You know, when you're trying to recruit a #1 draft pick in cybersecurity, what is the profile of a #1 draft pick? Well, MIT graduate, Stanford graduate, 10 years in an intelligence agency, and now they're out to go to the private world. And you tell them to come to Miami. Well, listen, if I wanted to be a bartender, I'd go down there. But, you know, cybersecurity, and this was, you know, so there had to be, I knew the potential was there. So all I did was really, and I think that it was just the idea, and then everybody came together, found Emerge Americas, because we felt that it would be something that would breathe a glue that would make it happen. And then we began, you know, evangelizing the idea. The Miami Herald became a big ally, we brought in academia, we brought in enterprise, and we brought in government. And everybody, you know, I remember there was a conference, Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, that I had asked me to speak. And I remember Kevin Levy, who's a local, very well-respected attorney, was going to introduce me. And he got up in the stage, I don't know how many years ago, but this is probably 10 years ago. And he got up in the stage and he kept saying, Miami has tech, Miami has tech. And everybody, Miami has tech. And then it was my turn to talk. And I said, Miami doesn't have tech. I'm sorry to tell you this. Miami can have tech, but Miami doesn't have tech. And that was kind of like the movement. And the movement was bringing all these factions together to work together. And everybody loved the idea because everybody loved what it is today. Bringing in all these jobs that pay 30, 40, 50% more, clean industries that don't utilize your resources. You know, everybody wanted this. And it's just a matter of a catalyst to make it happen. So it's knowing that it could always be possible because of all these attributes, and then creating the right vehicle. And then, look, everything that has happened over the last 2 years, 2.5 years, it was already happening, but it has significantly been accelerated by things that are out of our control. COVID, our good friends in New York, our good friends in California, you know, they're our greatest friends, you know, basically. So all of this was accelerated, but basically the community came together to say, let's make it happen.
That's very exciting. I mean, you've been at this for over 20 years. I've seen just in 5 years tremendous progress, and I feel like we're just getting started.
Absolutely.
What do you, as you stand here 20 years later, what do you see ahead for Miami? And what are the things that Miami needs to make sure we get right so we get to that vision you have?
Yeah, look, Miami is already, but Miami will be one of the greatest cities in the world. Miami will be at the same level as London, the same level as New York, the same level as Amsterdam, you know, same level as Hong Kong. Unfortunately, Hong Kong is going through its issues right now. So I think Miami will be that city, right? And Miami and technology will be a great part of it. I think innovation will be, we want to continue to be that bed of innovation. If you take a look at great cities, you know, whether it's Boston or New York or any, they're great, inspire. You know, I think Miami has this ability to become that beacon of inspiration for Latin America. You know, it used to irk me a lot. We had operations in Brazil, in Colombia, in Peru, and there was in the late 90s, in the early 2000s, there was not one young guy or girl, entrepreneur that wanted to come to Miami. They all wanted to go to Silicon Valley, New York, Boston.
There was a penalty for being based here. You were seen as not ambitious enough.
Right. Now, that's changed. Imagine now fueling that. So I think continuing to work together with the same thing and all of a sudden becoming that center will bring the best minds. We bring the capital is now we got too much capital, sorry. But basically, so I think continuing that same trend, becoming that great world capital city, we will always continue to be as welcoming and as open. So I think from a problem point of view, look, we're a major city. We're going to continue to have problems. People complain about traffic. I got to tell you, I don't know, you know, all the major cities that I'm in.
Mexico City.
Is that Miami right now is two Miamis. There's a Miami that you don't know And it's in Miami where if you go to Liberty City, if you go to certain parts of the north, and there's those, they don't even know that this world exists. Like a lot of the people here don't know that that world exists. And I think we have to do a much better job of trying to make sure, because it's very, very important to make sure that kind of divide doesn't exist. And that worries me because it continues to be exacerbated. It is not being cured. And obviously fueled by, and I'm not making any political statements here, but fueled by political, then that whole dialogue and helping folks is something that worries me, and it's something that I think we need to pay a lot more attention to as a community.
So we have a couple of minutes left. I'm just going to ask 2 last questions, but one on that point. What does Miami Tech have to do so we don't become well, right?
Well, look, I think Paula, you, I think Melissa, I think there's a whole young generation that believes in exactly what I just said, and they're doing it. They're reaching out. There's a lot of interracial entrepreneurs right now. There's a lot of things that are being done for gender. A lot of things being done to fuel and to help, and boot camps, etc. So I think we have to do more outreach. I mean, our family foundation helped found a school called the Seed School of Miami. They basically take kids from a foster program and put them to live in the school itself. That's cutting that chain. So the more you outreach to them and bring them out here from a very early age on, I think we need to do that.
I love that. So what are some closing words of advice you would give the audience? We have business leaders, we have entrepreneurs, people already in Miami, people looking at Miami as an example. What would you want to leave them with from this chat?
Very wise words. Remember that free advice is worth what you pay for. So basically, thank you very much. It's an honor for me to be here. I hope that all of you really, Miami is a great city. All my friends from Montreal, I know that you'll be down here pretty soon. It's still not cold enough, but you'll be down here soon, and we'll be out there soon. So thank you very much it's a great honor for me to have been invited here today. Great job.
Thank you.